What if I told you there's a possibility that you're making one or a combination of several different gym workout mistakes that could be putting a massive wrench in your potential muscle growth progress? That would kind of suck, wouldn't it? Well, here's the good news. In this video, while showing you footage from my latest gym workout, I'm going to share with you 3 workout mistakes that you could be making without knowing it. And I'm going to share with you what you could be doing instead of making them. Here's the better news. If you are making one or more of those mistakes, you realize it, and then you stop making them, then there's a high probability that you're going to start building muscle significantly faster. Before we get started, if you find yourself enjoying the video or that it's helpful to you, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Okay, let's dive in. The first mistake is opting to include exercises in your program because you think you must include them for muscle growth. Here's an example. Including barbell back squats because they are the best exercise for building your quads. While barbell back squats can be great for building your quads in many different contexts and for many different people, they might not always be ideal and not for everyone. See, muscle growth stimulus comes from applying higher and higher amounts of tension on your target muscles over time. Do barbell back squats do that? For many people, absolutely. But there are a whole throng of other exercises that also meet that end. And it might actually be the case that one or more of those exercises might be a better choice in your program than barbell back squats. Here's a possible context where that could be the case. If you have ongoing joint or connective tissue pain around your knees, hips, ankles, or back that seems to be frequently aggravated by doing barbell back squats, then doing them might not be a great idea. Chances are, even if the exercise is the king for building the quads, which it isn't necessarily, it wouldn't be worth doing in that circumstance. If you're constantly being held back by pain, then there's a high probability you're not applying as much tension as you could be applying to your quads from doing a different exercise, one that doesn't aggravate pain. If you have ongoing back pain from barbell back squats, for example, switching to a leg press where you have complete back support might be a perfect switch. Another context might be simply that there could be a different exercise that is just more stimulative for you. Yep, I'm suggesting that your belief that X exercise is the best for muscle growth, like barbell back squats being the best for building your quads, might actually be wrong. Here's an example. I've often heard it stated that the flat barbell bench press is the king for building your pecs. While it definitely can be great for many people, it might not be the best for everyone. Dumbbell bench press, for example, might be even more stimulative for many people. The exercise allows for micro adjustments to how you move throughout each rep from not being restricted with the grip of a single barbell. Those micro adjustments, in combination with having the capacity to move with a deeper range of motion, might lead to more overall tension on the pecs. And in some cases, like for myself, the barbell bench press might lead to wearing down your joints and connective tissue faster than something like a dumbbell bench press. If you're running into joint and connective tissue issues faster than you'd like, you might be better off sticking with an exercise that you're able to progress with for longer without as many of those interruptions. In summary, sometimes the exercises you think you need to include to build muscle might not actually be ideal, and could even be holding you back from building as much muscle as you otherwise could be. What you could consider doing is picking exercises not because you've heard they need to be included, but rather exercises that leave your joints and connective tissue feeling healthy, that leave you able to progress for a long time, that leave you with a good mind-muscle connection, and that, at least to some extent, you enjoy performing. Here's the second mistake. Lifting heavy because you think you must in order to build muscle. This is a mistake that I definitely made as a younger lifter. As mentioned earlier, muscle growth stimulus comes through applying growing amounts of tension to your target muscles over time. Doing so by lifting heavy weight is definitely one way of doing that, yes, but it isn't the only way. See, you can generate tons of tension and thereby tons of stimulus from other approaches, like progressing through lifting lighter loads for higher rep sets, or from moving with a slower tempo, or from adding pauses, or from a combination of all of the above. Again, lifting super heavy can work great for some people and for specific exercises, but it almost certainly isn't always ideal. I'll give you a personal example. When I was a younger lifter, I think I needed to lift heavy to build huge muscles, so I frequently did extremely heavy bicep curls. I'm talking 65 to 70 pound hammer curls and 135 pound barbell curls. As you might imagine, my exercise technique was not pretty. There's a lot of throwing and swinging weights around. Ironically, because my technique was so poor, I likely wasn't actually generating that much muscle growth stimulus, since the poor technique likely meant much less tension being applied to my target muscles, my biceps, than I was hoping for. Not to mention, I injured my wrists, forearms, and elbows way more frequently than I'd like to admit. That definitely wasn't ideal for muscle growth. In hindsight, it's clear that I would have benefited from lifting lighter with better technique. I probably would have applied significantly more tension to my biceps and generated significantly more stimulus from doing so. Now you might be thinking, well, what if I were to lift super heavy at lower rep ranges with good technique? Well, that's a great point. And yes, that absolutely could be a great means of generating muscle growth stimulus. But it might not if that leads to more frequent joint and connective tissue pain, or if you're left not feeling like you're effectively hitting your target muscles. I found that to be the case much of the time for myself, depending on the exercise. Like with lateral raises, for example. Heavy sets of 6 to 8 reps with good technique are tough as heck, definitely, but they don't leave me feeling my delts much. Just an overall sense of fatigue kind of around my shoulders, and usually it kind of makes my wrists feel cranky. For that reason, I prefer mid to high rep ranges using lighter loads for that exercise, since I feel significantly more tension on my delts and significantly less pain on my wrists. So in summary, you don't need to lift heavy to build muscle. And in some contexts, it might be optimal that you lift with more moderate or lighter loads to get an even better stimulus. Here's the third mistake, and you're definitely going to want to avoid this one. Sacrificing your exercise technique in favor of progressing. It's true. Muscle growth stimulus comes from applying greater and greater amounts of mechanical tension to your target muscles over time. And the main means in which you can do that is through progressively lifting heavier or progressively doing more reps. That can be done with lighter weights, and it can be done with heavier weights. But as mentioned earlier, sometimes one way might be better than the other. Regardless of the exact approach you take to progress, one universal truth holds true. Allowing your exercise technique to get sloppy as you progress is a mistake. Why? Well, to be blunt, because it's completely counterproductive to the goal you're trying to accomplish, building muscle. The irony is that if you're lifting heavier and heavier, but your technique gets worse and worse in the process, you very likely will be applying less tension to your target muscles than you think you are. Yep, that means you could be lifting super heavy, but failing to actually build much muscle in the process. This happens all the time, but it doesn't have to be you. The key is simple. While progressing, aim to keep your technique tight as you do so. Sure, when you're really pushing your limits, there might be times where your technique doesn't always look perfect, and that's okay. In fact, it's probably expected when we're talking about really pushing your limits. But things like your range of motion, overall level of control, and maintaining a sturdy setup should always be in the pocket, at least for the most part. Is it tough to do that? Definitely. but you'll build a heck of a lot more muscle doing that than if you were to do otherwise. And there you have it. 3 gym workout mistakes that could be throwing a big old wrench into your potential muscle growth progress. The first, including exercises in your program that you think are needed for muscle growth. The second, lifting heavy because you feel you need to lift heavy for muscle growth. And the third, sacrificing your exercise technique in favor of progressing. The good news is, if you've recognized that you've been making one or more of those mistakes, you stop making them and potentially start implementing some of my suggestions instead, then there's a high probability that you're going to start building muscle significantly faster. At this point, I'd love to know your feedback. Please drop your insights, questions, comments in the comment section below. Before this video comes to a close, I want to let you know about the work that I do. When I'm not making YouTube videos, recording podcast episodes, or making Instagram content, I work full-time as an online physique coach, where I help my clients to accomplish their muscle growth and fat loss goals by optimizing their approach to strength training and nutrition, and I coach them through the process. I've been doing this work for over 7 years and love helping my clients to not only transform their bodies, but ultimately their lives. If you've been considering getting some help with accomplishing your own physique goals, feel free to hit the link in the description below, where you can learn a little bit more about the work that I do and how I can help you. You can even use that link to schedule a free video consultation with me. If you have any questions about my coaching or how it can help you, just email me at sam@jadeathletics.ca. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.